Well, hello and welcome to the Waking Up Spiritually podcast. We're so happy to have you here with us. I'm Wendy Rose Williams. I am a past life energy healer. I help people release pain, anxiety, depression, whatever stuck energy is keeping you from feeling healthy, feeling happy, enjoying your purpose, and enjoying your life. And I am thrilled to bring today's topic to you with my wonderful co-host, Greg Kirk. And he and I have created Waking Up Spiritually. It's been almost 6 years now that we've been podcasting together to help support you with your spiritual awakening, because it can be isolating. Yes, it can be fantastic and wonderful in such an amazing, amazing ride. And it can also be the biggest challenge of your life and just make you feel very alone and that you might be a little bit nuts. So we'd like to help normalize all those things and just help provide some support. So that's the purpose of Waking Up Spiritually as a podcast. So Greg, if you'd be so kind as to introduce yourself in today's topic.
Of course. Thank you, Wendy. I'm Greg Kirk. You can come see everything that I do and offer at gregkirk.com. That's GREGGKIRK.com. So I've written a couple of books. My most recent one was released in October. I journeyed through a 12-year Lyme disease, chronic illness situation, and I had the spiritual awakening that Wendy was talking about in the middle of that. So yeah, it was beautiful and a struggle, and isolating in some ways. Also, I ended up finding my tribe at the same time. So it's like a balanced mixture of those things. And then on top of it, I've been trained in some energy healing practices and then eventually became a certified health and wellness coach. So, excuse me, I help people with Lyme disease and other chronic illnesses, as well as lately I've been helping other practitioners and energy healing practitioners and other people who are kind of like they're not beginners anymore in the spirit. They've accepted their spiritual awakening and they're looking for the next step. And I've been helping quite a few people with that, and that's my honor and privilege and pleasure. It really gets me excited. So I run online group healing circle every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. East Coast time. And we've, this last week we had people from Australia, France, England, all over the United States, and it's really, really getting good. So come check it out, join, and love to have you. So let me get our deck going, Wendy, and you can tell
Perfect.
people what's
So
going on
for
with
those
that.
of you who are listening, we so appreciate you being here. And those who are able to also watch, we prepare a PowerPoint and everything is archived at wakingupspiritually.com, which also has a search button that you can use. So whatever topic might be coming up for you that you need some assistance with, there's very likely to be a podcast or two in there for you. And if there's not, suggest the topic to us. So Greg's just getting us to the beginning.
I'm having technical
There we
difficulties.
go.
Here we go. Okay. Yes, here's our beautiful cover slide that was supposed to be up when Wendy was talking, but spirit. So Wendy, I didn't tell you this, but we had discussed whether or not this topic would be a spiritual myth breakers. And at first I didn't think you said, yeah, I don't know if it is. And I had the same feeling, like, yeah, maybe this isn't. And then I had second thoughts. I thought, why not make this a special edition, just one topic? And this is the first time Wendy and I have had a pretty opposite end difference
We disagreed.
difference of opinion is what I call it. And so much so that at first we thought, oh, maybe we shouldn't talk about this. And then we both kind of had the instinct of, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we? Why would we be afraid to talk about anything? Even so, what if we have a difference of opinion? We can give deep dives on where we're coming from on this. And then you, the listener, the watcher, the viewer, can make your decisions. And also, I just thought it would be great to model the type of behavior that I hope we continue with in the future of humanity regarding social media and other things, where you can have a difference of opinion and still be friends with someone. You don't have to, you know,
Absolutely.
shut them out, block them, all this nonsense that I unfortunately see too much. But I'm seeing, the opposite also going on. I'm seeing an uprising of people saying, "Hey, people, we don't have to be enemies about this stuff," and whatever. So that's that. So the
And
topic,
we've buried the lead here. And the topic is, should you uh, be prepared for what's coming? Meaning, do you want to do emergency preparedness? Because we don't know what's coming. And that was where Greg and I went back and forth.
yeah. So Wendy and I don't know how far we went. Let me just kind of tee this up a bit, and then Wendy, we'll get right into your slides.
Sure.
Um, so when it was funny because Wendy and I we reach out to each other and say, okay, here's some guest possibilities, here's some topic possibilities. So Wendy and I both kind of had this idea of, because the information we're getting from our guides, this is not just us thinking on the topics. This is prompting from our guides, and we were both getting prompting on getting ready for the future. It's just we came out at completely different ends, and my response to Wendy saying, "Okay, yeah," so because we didn't even. I just said, yes, we let's talk about how to prepare for the future. And you said, yes, absolutely. And it was about emergency preparedness. And to me, that felt like there might be a little bit of fear involved in that, and an outcome, a future I don't want. And then Wendy she has her ideas about that. But so that's when we were like, well, what do we do about this? And Wendy and I had a really great conversation over the phone a few weeks or a week ago. And you know, this particular topic may be regional in basis, because I,
Absolutely.
I trust Wendy's guides and I trust my guides. And I'm not getting this information through my guides, but Wendy is like, she's like, they're insistent about it. And then that's when we both kind of came to the conclusion this might be a regional thing. Like,
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm in Washington State. So I'm on the West Coast of the United States, and Greg is out in Connecticut. So he's in the East Coast. So we're several thousand miles apart. And I think we can agree that this is a pivotal year, that there's just a lot of change going on, and a lot of more things expected to change. And yes, it can be very, very regional what happens or doesn't happen, in your area with storms or whatever other type of emergencies that can come up.
right. And just the other thing is, after I kind of, settled into the topic idea, I mean, I realized that we make we're all doing some level of preparedness. Um, anyway, we have spare tires with our cars, we have smoke alarms, we have fire extinguishers in our houses. And I know the Mormon religion, it's a part of their belief that they need to have a year's worth of food and supplies, in a place in their
Oh,
house.
interesting. I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So this is, not a new idea. And plus, I've, talked to other people about the topic, and they're like, oh yeah, 100, 200 years ago, people were storing food because, refrigeration and stuff like that wasn't around. And
Root
they
cellars.
root cellars and all that kind of stuff. So, there's people have been doing this on some level for quite a while. So it's not such a new
Not
topic.
new.
Right, right. So Wendy, I'll shut up. Let's get into your slides here.
Okay, absolutely. And as Greg said, this came up for me in an interesting way via my guides, and it started coming up via dreams. And I would wake up morning after morning with my guides just like showing me particulars. And I'm like, what is all this Girl Scout stuff, Boy Scout stuff? That was kind of my take on emergency preparedness. And it's an interesting term and area, because if you Google, because Greg, you brought up the topic of fear, and if you Google on it, oh my goodness, the emergency preparedness area, it's just been co-opted and just branded unintentionally as very, very male, very military,
Well, yeah,
very,
there's a whole group of people called survivalists, and their idea, and this is their idea. I'm not there's no tone to what I'm about to say. Their ideas of survival are, building a bunker and, underground and things like that, stockpiling weapons and food
yes.
and drink and all that kind of stuff too. So it's a different take. And as when he says that, that feels very male military, paramilitary style, and which doesn't resonate with her. She's allowed to not resonate with that. So yeah.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So, really, the question is, are you spiritually guided? You need to know what your guidance is, what's intuitively right for you. And I think that's a lot of what Greg and I are here to help tease out, because it's something we're always working to determine for ourselves and encouraging others to do. Only you can know your own truth. So, are you spiritually guided to prepare for emergencies, whatever that might be? Or does that action itself feel fear-based? And does it help you create what you don't want? That's really our spiritual mythbuster topic for today.
Right.
And what emotions does the thought of emergency preparedness or prepping bring up for you? Does it bring up some resistance, some anger, some irritation, some overwhelm? Or does it bring up some enthusiasm to expand your own life skills and readiness to simply be more independent, be more sovereign, and be prepared for all aspects of life? Because let's be real, we have gotten very over reliant on these little plastic boxes called telephones, called smartphones. And it's like we just reach for them for everything. Like, how do I navigate? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I think we need to be able to use our brains and some some basic skills that have gotten a little lost along the way. Because guess what? You can lose your phone, break your phone, cell towers can go down, etc. So now here's a slide from my friend Teresa Micheletti, and she is in California. So again, on the West Coast, like me, and she wrote this very short to the point slide about two weeks ago. And the way she phrased it was the probability window is open again with a great probability that we are in for an obvious ascendance shift. And I think that's important to understand. We're really talking about Earth ascending, raising her vibration and frequency. And that is not always a pretty or easy process. Perhaps in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And some of the recommendations are to consider keeping some cash, some water, some candles available, different effects in different areas of the world. So, Greg, back to your point of why you and I were getting just such different messages on this. Some
Mhm.
of the possibilities are, and these are simply possibilities, are solar disruptions, the power being out, city water being disrupted, internet going down, banks being closed, cars may not work, and major earth changes such as earthquakes, and to just go with the flow, because those things can be very upsetting to people. They can really not just interrupt life, but they can kick off a lot of fear. And it may be a bumpy ride to get to the peace and the new beautiful dimension. Um, and basically, I think being able to give that summary, in a couple of sentences like that, I appreciated Teresa doing that. So I'm sharing that slide from her.
Just want to say
Greg,
that
any comments on that?
yeah, some of these things are happening now, and
Of course.
I've heard a variation of this for probably, well, since 2014, where we were hearing more dramatic things like, 3 days of darkness is what I kept hearing, where power is going to be out. It may be out forever. We may hit a solar coronal mass emission. It may knock out our ability to have any electronic products forever, um, knocking us back to, like the 1800s. And hey, people lived in the 1800s, they thrived. So that's one way to look at it. But hearing all these things, um, tidal waves, earthquakes, strange storms, things like that, we're having some of those now. We are having those now. So and people are getting through it. So a lot of this we did. I think we did an episode called the Great Awakening, and then Wendy, we also did an episode more or less on the lighter side of this topic of what's happening in the world. and I went down the rabbit hole on, hey, the sun and the earth are having a different kind of relationship right now. There's a
Right.
lot of solar flares and coronal mass ejections, where like the top of the sun comes, and if it hits the earth directly, it can be devastating, but it's not doing that. But we're having a lot of changes in weather, a lot of changes. Internet's going down just around where I live. It went down for a few hours a couple weeks ago. So, yeah, these things are happening. Absolutely, they're not as dramatic and drastic as I heard, foretold back in 2014. But I think we're getting some help. This is what I'm getting, that these dire predictions are getting softened up for us. So that's anyway, that's what I'm
And that
hearing.
could
But
be absolutely a reflection of if we're doing our work and we're
yes.
we're healing and releasing what we don't need, and we're working to visualize the best outcomes. I mean, that's how we all boats rise with the tide, and we just help one another, versus the opposite.
Versus being selfish. Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Right. So, just some quick stats here. I'm not going to read this all to you in the interest of time, and just invite you to please go to wakingupspiritually.com, and there you'll be able to read the details and some of the research that I did.
click
Uh,
click the broadcast link on this broadcast on
right.
what
Perfect.
is today,
Perfect.
March 10th. Is it?
Perfect.
Yes.
And some of the stats that I found that were very, very interesting is the majority of Americans believe they're prepared for a disaster, but yet less than half have an emergency supply kit. So, and that's fair too. People prepare and organize in different ways. And some people, as you said, Greg, they've just kind of instinctively got what they need. And other people, it just serves them better. If you live in an area where you might need to evacuate on short notice, and I think that's part of why this came up for me so strongly, is I'm now out in Eastern Washington. I lived in Seattle for 30 years. And I've never lived in an area before that is prone to wildfires, where you might truly get an evacuation order. You need to be out in less than 20 minutes. There is a wildfire coming. Pay attention. And you cannot grab what's important to you and what you need in any organized way to move out in 20 minutes. It's just not possible. So having a go bag with the important things. So I actually went through that exercise and prepared what do I need, and it showed me some kind of some gaping holes. Like I didn't have a little emergency radio, which are fairly inexpensive. You can get them for 20 to 40 bucks, and they don't have to use batteries. They can be hand crank, etc. And so there's just some great tools that you can find. I also found, to my chagrin, I thought, oh, I'm so well prepared with fire extinguishers, and it's like, wait a minute, let me look at the dates on these. Well, I don't think my fire extinguishers from 2013 were especially helpful. So, I replaced those, and same thing. You got to have batteries, or hand crank or something in the flashlights. They've got to be working. You can't just have them around the house like decorations that you think are okay. So it was good for me to have this exercise. The U.S. power grid can be more fragile than we wish to consider, as is the supply chain. The U.S. power grid, just as an example, it's divided into West, East, and Texas, and so that's it. If a section of that goes down, or if all of it goes down, that really can have an impact. And I think one of the top things to do is it's just important to store some clean drinking water and have that available to you for your for family for 72 hours, and also to know how to decontaminate it, because occasionally we do, hear from the city, hey, there's a problem. I mean, look at Detroit and what Detroit has gone through with water and is still going through, and
Yeah.
just be able to know what to do. And I think perhaps the reason that disasters were kind of coming through from my guides, for me, is I have been through some disasters. I think most of us have. When I went through Hurricane Bob in the Boston area in 91, we not only lost our power, but we had no water for 5 or 6 days because we had a well. So there just was, no way to pump that water from the well. So that showed my husband and I, we were newly married, first house, late 20s, early 30s, and just weren't experienced enough to know, hey, having some drinking water and non-perishable food and a generator might have been very, very helpful for us, because we noticed neighbors all had them, but we were new to the area. My dad and stepmom went through the North American ice storm in Quebec in a very major way in January of 1998. It was just before I gave birth to my youngest daughter, Taylor, in March. So we had been phone calling, more than regular, because the baby was due, and I could not reach them by phone for over 30 days,
Whoa.
because they had no power in cold, cold, cold Quebec for over 30 days during that North American ice storm. So that was a big deal. That was a major issues for many areas. And then I went through two big windstorms, 69, 70 mile an hour windstorms in 2006 and 2008 out in the Seattle area. And it is very sobering to see a huge 150-foot tree cut a neighbor's house in half.
Yeah.
Um, and that happened to multiple neighbors. My mom and I were so thankful and so grateful with the second storm in 2008. We were in our brand new home and we're like, oh my gosh, we're so lucky we made it through and no tree fell here. And guess what? And that storm had been on New Year's Eve. It was on December 31st. Guess what happened on January 1st? A tree fell on our house. Not nearly as major as many of our neighbors, but still it breached the roof on my mom's bedroom, my daughter's bedroom, and my bedroom. So
Mm.
three bedrooms. And here it is again, New Year's Day. Try and get someone to come get a tarp over your roof and start getting roof repair. Greg, we were so fortunate and so assisted. My mom had a brilliant idea because we had just moved into the house, new house, about 4 months earlier. And she said, wait a minute, we're not going to get regular roofers. Why don't we call the guys who actually built the house?
Hmm.
So that's what we did. And they said, we will be there today. And they
Wow.
came and, and got us, because they were so lovely, and they were still just so invested of having just spent, the last year having built our homes, that they gave up their New Year's Day and came right over and helped us and got that and it was a madrona, super heavy, dense tree. But these things do happen, no matter how well you prepare and build, etc. They can happen in the blink of the eye, and other times you've got a couple of hours of warning of, hey, there's a major storm forecast. So, but yeah, my dad and stepmom with no power for over a month in Quebec, that was a big deal.
Wow. Yeah.
So, what if the process of preparing for the emergency is what's needed to benefit you? This was one of the things my guide said as I was kind of like pushing back at them of, what's with all this drill? What is going on with this? Why does this continue? And they asked me the question of, what if you're to step fully into your power? I think there's a little wordplay there, spirit with that wonderful sense of humor, power, electricity, without abusing it. Because that's my life path, is a life path 33, which again might have been why this was really coming up for me, Greg, and not coming up for you.
I
So,
don't know Life Path 33. What's that?
Life path 33, and we all have a life path, and it's based on your birth date.
Hmm.
And I can put in an article of how you calculate that. So basically, what you do is you write out the full date. Like I am July 18th, so 07/18, 1961. And you just add up across those numbers, and then you reduce to a single digit, unless you're an 11, a 22, or a 33, because those are a life paths on their own. But most people are a life path 1 through 9. And it simply gives you some great information of the things you might be working on in this lifetime.
So, what are
Uh,
some of the traits of a Life Path 33?
Life path 33, it's an interesting one. It's someone that is typically a highly experienced soul, and you tend to go one of two extreme directions. It's someone who either becomes an alcoholic or becomes a spiritual teacher, or does
Wow.
both in the same lifetime, because they
Oh, wow.
climb from one to the other. It's
Hmm.
it's just it's like a lot of the guardrails are off
Yeah.
that lifetime.
Okay.
It's got some extremes to it. Is kind of the best way I can explain that. But I was going through these, different things. I'm like, okay, great. I got my 4 backpacks. I mean, yes, if I had to leave on foot, I can do it with one. I've got the one critical one. But if I'm leaving by car, I've got, four with, kind of different categories. And then my guides, I wake up, and I'm like, okay, got that done. And I wake up the next morning and they're like, okay, now what if the cars don't start? And I'm like, really? We're going to do that one? So it's like, okay. So then, it was get it down to one. And they said, get Henley a little backpack. Don't overload it, because I'm not leaving my animals behind. If it's going to be a big windstorm, if there's a fire coming, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I'm just not locking them in the house and leaving. They're leaving with me, which changes the dynamic a lot.
Yeah.
How do you get a dog out? How do you get a cat out? So poor Mindy, my cat, is now the proud owner of a cat backpack that she probably never wants to see the inside of.
Yes.
But I know I could put her in that and put her over my shoulder.
There you go.
And I've got the other backpack, and Henley's got her little backpack to help carry some of the stuff.
Very cute.
So, you just kind of go through it. So I got to a certain point where I stopped. I have to admit, like all of us, we can kind of fuss and fight with our guides, because they don't always bring up, they bring up in a loving way what is powerful for us, what is best for us, what is needed, but it doesn't mean that the human ego and personality likes it or enjoys it.
Yeah.
It's what we need. It's not necessarily what we want.
Right.
So that's just fine. So, we've just kind of taken that, some further steps. So yeah, ready for the next slide. So I'm someone that likes to cook, so I always have a big pantry anyway, because I don't want to run to the grocery store, because I, get the yen to cook whatever. So that's great, because I've got a lot of non-perishables. And I also found one of the advantages of living in a tiny house, I could plug the whole house, because I'm only 50 amperage. I could plug the whole house into a surge protector. So why not? It was 35 bucks. And it was cool, because for the first time I could see, hey, now I know my electric pole is fine, because all the green lights came up on the surge protector and it said, yes, safe to plug into. And I would have known if there was any, issue with it, that I needed an electrician. So, again, just cool information comes up. I think some of the basics are know what disasters could affect your area, know how to get emergency alerts on your phone, plan where you would go if you need to evacuate and how you would get there. Create some kind of emergency communications plan. Again, we're so reliant on the phone. Could you name could you list out the phone number of, the 10 people you call the most? I don't think anyone could because we just hit the button in our phone. We don't have numbers memorized like we used to because we had to physically dial them. So it was in muscle memory.
Right.
So, write those down, some key phone numbers, as well as an out of area contact, because when phone lines get jammed up or go down locally, often you can get a call out long distance. So if you've got that, that person, consider things like downloading the FEMA app for weather alerts, and just think about, do you feel it would be useful to you to put together a 72-hour emergency kit to shelter in place? What do you do for water, food, light, heat, cool? And don't forget your pets or children or elderly or any special needs like that. And if you're in an area that experiences wildfires or other reason, earthquakes, tornadoes, other reasons that you might need to leave, if not to shelter in place, what might that go bag look like? And also know how to disconnect your utilities. That was one of the things I kind of went through, was like, wait a minute, if there's a wildfire coming, what in the heck do I do? And one of the things was, well, I've got a big propane tank. I've got like a 70. Well, you need to know how to turn that off,
Yeah.
so that you don't have that as a something that's going to potentially blow up. So those were just some of the thoughts in that area. Greg, any comments? Is this making sense?
It is, and I think it's great information to have. And like we said earlier, I'm going to take all this information and create an emergency preparedness PDF that will be on our website. You go to wakingupspiritually.com, click on the broadcast link for this broadcast, and then scroll down and you'll see a link to all this information in detail.
Fantastic. Okay, very good. And then I listed out what the components of your go bag might be. It's different for every person, but this is just to get, your brain going of what would be helpful for you. For instance, local paper maps. A lot of us just don't have them anymore, don't use them anymore, because again, we use all just the phone. But as I started thinking about it, it's like, wow, I don't have a great sense of direction, and I don't really know the area well, only having lived here a couple of years. So just the mere act of getting a paper map, and guess what? If you're a AAA member, which a lot of us are, you can get maps for free, paper maps for free. So just order your local one and have that be part of your go bag so that you do have that if you need it. And that some emergency cash, because if suddenly ATMs are down, if the point of service machines are down in the grocery stores and you have to use cash, a lot of people don't carry any cash anymore. It's like, they're just paying via debit card or credit card, or paying off their phone, um, Apple Cash or whatever.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
that's gone. You need some small bills. So there's simply a list here. And what's in this picture? Again, Henley, my sweet model, my dog, and what's next to her is it's a pet stroller. Because that was something that the guides, all of a sudden, I woke up one morning, I'm like, what are you showing me? It looks like a stroller, but I don't think it's not my granddaughter's stroller. What is that? And they said pet stroller. And so again, that would be a way if, cars aren't working and I need to move out, walk out, well, the cat can go in the pet stroller and you can throw that backpack in the bottom. And then there's the FEMA, radio there. So again, it's just kind of the basics to, if you need to, move on out and go, grab a bus, or do whatever you need to be doing. So yes, so that's what that is.
Very cute.
All right. And then here's some more nitty gritty of just some emergency preparedness things. So, water, the 1 gallon per person daily is the recommendation, because it's not just us drinking water. We've got to be able to cook and clean with water, and some basic hygiene, and just some different things. So I took the opportunity to learn more about shelf stable foods. It's not just what's in your pantry, but do you want to go deeper? And as you said, Greg, I had no idea that that was part of the Mormon religion and culture, to be having. So people, likely have some of these preserved, the dehydrated. Some of these foods will last 5 years. Some of them will last literally 25 years. And then others, it's just kind of getting the discipline of having a deeper pantry if you choose to, and then kind of rotating those things, because they're good for 6 months, a year, 2 years. So, don't just write your grocery list, check your own pantry box, or whatever you've got going. And you might have that evaporated milk or whatever you need there, and coconut milk, and just grab it and then just put the newer one back in there. So you're using your things up, is the point. You're not wasting money. Batteries, oh my gosh, we're so dependent on batteries. So I got mine just organized for the first time ever, and have a little battery tester with it. I also got deep much deeper than I had expected into some first aid kits, because realistically, in an emergency, when we most need 911, they can be very, very busy if there's a big, local emergency going on. So it just makes sense to have some good first aid kits, in our car, at home, and know how to use it. And when I say first aid kit, I'm not talking gauze and Band-Aid, because that's what's in most emergency kits if you really look at them. So I got some more, because again, my guides just kept bringing it up. So I got some more substantial emergency kits, and just spent a half a day sitting and reading through everything and going through it. Yes, I have taken CPR and infant CPR, and what to do with Heimlich maneuver and choking and first aid fairly recently, because of the new granddaughter and because I'm a nanny. So for those reasons, but it just kind of came together more as I sat there with those kits and kind of went through them, to be able to help yourself, help your family, help your neighbors. Because I think we just need to remember our communities and be building our communities. I also did choose to invest into a Jackery, which is a power station. So this is the newer version of the gas generators, because yes, they're wonderful, and I ran one for 15 years out in Seattle, because we did have a fair number of power outages because of so many big trees, and windstorms would come up, and we'd be without power for up to 5 or 6 days. So, but those gas generators, how are you safely storing gas? And they're so noisy. There's just so much pollution from them. So I went this time, because I'm in a very different situation. I went with the Jackery, which is a power station that's ready to go. It's always powered up, and then when it loses power at a certain point, I can either plug it into my car battery, or it has solar panels. So there's a couple different options with that, and of course they come in all different sizes, and price points. And I just watched for deals, because I knew I wanted to get one, and I just waited, and there was a Black Friday sale, and it was 40% off, and I'd done my research, so I went ahead, and it just sits in my living room. It's just kind of tucked in the corner, and it's always ready to go. So just some things to consider. I also included some resources here of steps you can take to be prepared and some thoughts about growing some food. There's my arrow gardens, my lettuce. Aren't you jealous of my lettuce right now? Because I grow that year round, and I have a couple different arrow garden, which is a hydroponic. So yes, it needs water and electric. But even if you live in an apartment, a condo, somewhere small, and you can't have a big garden or an above ground garden, you can garden in pots. You can do different things just so you've got some fresh food there for yourself, because I think there would be a lot of food fatigue from having to eat all the different dehydrated and canned, etc. We'd need some fresh greens, and having some heirloom seeds, I think is a really smart thing. And again, those just last for years. So I think that's a good thing to buy and have on hand. That's one of the buckets in the picture in the upper right. It's all seeds. So those were my comments there.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy.
Absolutely.
So, wow, I can't really read what my okay.
I can. Um,
Okay.
I'll skim for you here. So you
No,
you raised the question, Greg, what's in our future? And to remember, life is happening for you, not to you. So we
right.
stay out
Actually,
of that victim place.
right. I just moved some things around so I can see now.
Oh,
So
good. Good.
anyway, yes, yeah, Wendy and I have done at least two episodes where we hit that topic of life. Life is happening for you, not to you. So that this is the mindset I'm coming from. My guides, when it comes to these things, of and again, obviously regional situations way big in this. I'm in an area where yeah, we have storms every year. We just had a massive amount of snow this winter, and but I'm blessed to be in an area where we're protected by Long Island, so a lot of the storms hit Long Island and not us so much. And then we are near the coast, but we're not close enough. I mean, obviously, if there was some massive change in the Earth's, water levels, then yes, we would be, in a tough situation. But whatever. So because of the storms that we have, at least once a year, we have a big storm. We, we prepared for a 24 to 48 hour outage of power, and we've done that. But anyway, getting back to what I'm getting is, I've been almost, well, whatever information that I've been reading about since 2014 is, yes, there's going to be major changes. There's going to be cataclysms, and there's going to be an ascension process that's going to kind of split people in two, and the good people are going to go somewhere, and the bad people, all these things that don't quite resonate with me. But I mean, I'm kind of putting a spin on it, obviously. But so I think there is something going on right now where there's certainly, it's being exacerbated by social media, that there are kind of two polar political ideologies that are playing out on social media. And, so there is some kind of a split happening. But there's also a kind of split between the worlds of the materialists and the people who are into looking at life in a spiritual way. There's that also kind of split. So I think these things are happening to a degree. And the stuff I was hearing about, like we're going to have a solar blast or a coronal mass emission and things like that. It's I've been waiting for that since 2012. Honestly, I said 2014, but 2012 we thought December 21st, 2012, there was going to be some major cataclysm. Everybody was preparing for it, and it didn't happen. And I've heard channeled information basically saying that, yeah, there was kind of like a spiritual intervention or an ET intervention where it kind of kept us. We weren't ready for that, is what they were saying. And I think there's kind of that kind of thing is going on. We're getting assistance from ETs and spiritual, interdimensional beings to kind of
Angels, so many angels.
Absolutely lessening some of these cataclysms in a way. Plus, there's also, so since this time, I've also come across, and I'm going to share their information later. David Clements, he's a really great, reliable channeler, and a guy named Daryl Anka who channels Bashar. And how my gauge on these people, I resisted both of them at first. Friends were like, "You got to check these guys out." So I was like, "Yeah, I don't really want to do that." But eventually I started to, and then they were showing up in my YouTube feed, and kind of like my gauge on them was, and this is just something I did instinctively, but especially with Bashar, people go up to him. He's usually at a live event. People go up to him and ask a question. And first, I was kind of put off by the way he speaks. Hello and good day. That's how he sounds. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about this guy. But maybe that was there to kind of weed people out like me, but I don't know. But so people would go up and ask him a question, and already my higher self was answering the question, before he responded. And then he would say, his response would be almost identical to what my higher self said. So that got my antenna up. And the same kind of thing happened with David Clements. And then other people in the online group healing circle, I do a bit of channeling in there, and I'm channeling my higher self. And I just had that idea. I'm like, where am I getting this information? I'm not changing my voice. I'm not a trans medium like I've seen people do. I'm not. I don't. That doesn't resonate with me. So where is this information coming from? And then the idea of, oh, this is my higher self. My higher self is outside of time and space. That's why I'm not being infiltrated by anything. I'm already connected to my higher self. So my higher self knows everything, and is just kind of feeding me drip irrigation, feeding me information. So that I came to that conclusion. And within a few weeks, I met David Clements. Guess what he was saying? He channels his higher self. I'm like, oh my God, this is how it happens. This is how your spiritual awakening happens. So I'll share their information at the end. But so both of these guys are saying very similar things, and it's very similar to the information we're getting in the online group healing circle. Yes, we are going through something right now. There's an absolute fact that the Earth's energy is rising. We talked about the Schumann resonance and all that. And that is causing certain people to either feel like they're going insane, or other people to feel like it's the best thing ever. But even for the people who are saying, oh, this is the best thing ever, they're having challenges, what we call contrast experiences, in the middle of that. So just when you get comfortable, feeling like I got it figured out or whatever, things are really going well for me, something crazy happens. We call it a disaster or whatever. And then that's your opportunity to really stay on your path, or shift to an even better path, or maybe pause for a while until you get it figured out. And absolutely that has been happening. So both of these guys are saying the same kind of thing. Even Bashar is even saying next year we're going to have open contact with extraterrestrials, and he predicted that 7 years ago. So pretty bold thing to say, and we'll see if it pans out. But he also pointed out that Bashar is an extraterrestrial. So he's like, you've already got contact with me. And by the way, he's hilarious. He's kind of a smart ass, and he's very funny, has a great sense of humor. And I really love it when, part of his thing is follow your excitement. So, one time I saw somebody come up to him and say, oh, Bashar, I've had a really tough week. I lost my job. And, and he said, how exciting. Meaning, if you look at losing your job with excitement, you realize you're being pushed towards a different path. And how much
opportunities.
Yes, different opportunities, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, all of this stuff is what I'm hearing. And plus, David Clements, and we've been getting this information for 3 years or more in the online group healing circles, is we are the writers of we're the architects and the writers of our life. And I'm going to hit that hard a little bit. But, we have patterned our broadcasts, the Myth Breakers idea on the Mythbusters TV show. And the Mythbusters guys had a great saying, which is, I reject your reality and I replace it with my own. And I always thought that was funny, but now I'm thinking it's true. So you can, I mean, it's happening anyway. We, none of us have the exact same life experiences. None of, because we are different people. We are basically writing our own reality at this very minute. Bashar even says that in a billion times a minute, we shift into different permutations of timelines, which is fascinating, almost a mind-blowing topic. So when when we say past lives, he's like, that wasn't a past life, that was a different timeline of yours. Like, okay, that's hard for me to wrap my mind around, but I know it's true. So anyway, the point is, because we are the right, let's put the sovereignty completely in our court here. We are writing our experiences. I've talked about this idea for years and got it from people like Esther Hicks and Wayne Dyer about the power of intention. Is, what our emotional state, our beliefs, and our actions are sending out a broadcast, and that's attracting a certain type of people, places, things, and experiences based on the frequency of that emanation. So we're broadcasting out. If you're in a good mood, you're broadcasting out. You're going to have a better day. If you do that all the time, you're going to meet more like-minded people. You're going to have, better experiences, blah, blah, blah. So that's great. And if we understand that, we can take that a step further and we can start doing things like manifestation and so forth. Again, I'll get into that in a minute. But we don't have to accept the seeded reality, as David Clements calls it, of, when entire cultures have a belief system that kind of locks in this reality emanation that's going out. And we don't have to accept that. And I think a lot of us are kind of looking, there's a lot of systems breaking down now, a lot of old world ideas, and we're questioning more, our political systems, our government systems, our medical systems. Everybody's asking, like, wait a minute, that doesn't seem right to me. That's our role here, is to do that, and to create our own. If we don't like it, create our own reality. So anyway, in light of all this, something is going to happen to you that you don't like, and we call that a contrast experience. It's outside your expectations, where you think, I want a beautiful life that's easy, but then this thing happens. So when that does happen, and we stop and we step into them instead of running from them, we can understand the lessons in them, and the benefits come faster. So this is one of those things where, I keep hearing this over and over again, especially with chronic illness. If you run from the symptoms, if you run from the depression, all these kinds of things, instead of leaning into it, then the symptoms stick around longer. And so if you lean into them and try to find out what they have to teach you, that's how you transmute or diffuse the situation. So
versus prolonging it because you're resisting.
Right. So basically, our emotional states, beliefs of being unworthy, feeling scarcity, blame, fear, and comparisons can be blocks to more desired outcomes. So, whenever I say that to somebody, there's a percentage of people who will say, well, oh, so you're saying I deserve, because I'm depressed and my frequency emanations are low, you're saying it's my fault. I deserve all the bad things coming to me. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you've fallen into a hole, do you just sit there and blame the outside world or blame yourself? Like, I fell into this hole. I guess, you don't expect to stay there for the rest of your life, do you? You have the ability, and this is an empowerment story that I'm telling you. So for people like that who are like, well, that you're giving me false hope, and that's you're making me feel shame because I fell in this hole. Well, I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to tell you that you can get out of the hole. Would you like to get out of the hole? I'm telling you how to get out of it. You can sit in your emotions for a while until you believe what I'm saying, and that's fine. Take your time, but you can get out of the hole. And so so we can accept, once you begin to accept the situation, like that you fell in the hole, um, and you don't resist it, like, oh no, I don't like it that I'm in this hole, kind of thing. But if you can actually do as Bashar says, and look at it with excitement, like I'm excited. I fell in this hole. this is this is a new experience for me. How am I going to get out of this? Let me. I know I'm pretty smart, and I can go with the flow. Let me see what I can do to get out of it. So you notice the parts of the experience that make you uncomfortable or painful, and look into what parts that you could benefit from. So understand that you're learning in detail when these situations happen about the things you don't want. And so take note of them as you begin to think about your future. I know it sounds, I mean, honestly, it goes back to the old thing, like you have to touch a hot stove before, when you're a little kid, to realize, oh, I don't like that. I'm never going to do that again. That burnt my hand. That was a tough lesson. But these are the kinds of lessons we're learning, as we move through our lives. So you can, and again, it's not blame or anything like that. If you didn't learn the lesson well enough and you go back and touch the stove again, yep, still hurts. So we need to move on from these ideas. Finding out what we don't want is just as important as feeling what we do want. So it's a part of life. And so instead of asking ourselves, how can I find security and happiness? We can ask ourselves, can I touch the center of my pain? That doesn't sound like a pleasurable experience, but this is a deep information coming from Pema Chodron. Can I touch the center of my pain? Can I sit with suffering, both yours and mine, without trying to make it go away? Can I stay present to the ache of loss or disgrace, disappointment in all its many forms, and let it open me? This is the trick. That's timeless wisdom. So we are wired as human beings. We're observational beings. When something hurts, we want to get away from it. Of course we do. But as you realize you're on a spiritual journey, and if the pain is sticking around, that means it's got something for you. It's got a lesson for you. So instead of running from it, turn around. Like if you're being chased by a monster in your dream and you decide, I'm tired of this, and you turn around and say, what do you have to teach me? 9 times out of 10, the fear of the thing that you're running from is that your feeling of fear is worse than when you turn around and find out it's not so bad. And then there is something, a bit of wisdom or a change that you make emotionally or even physically that helps you through. And now you're changed, you're more empowered, and you've got a better life. So again, this is not about self-blame or shame. If you're in an undesirable state, can you believe you are powerful enough to change your future with your thoughts, beliefs, and emotions?
Wonderful.
So, that in mind, how can we write our own future? So again, I was coming from this when Wendy said, oh, what if there's a disaster in your area? Okay, so if you know there's a disaster coming, or even if it does come, you can make it better for your own situation. And also, that's one thing you can do. The other thing you can do is just build a better life. And this is what I do every day. So the first quote at the top are my words. I'm a retired manifester. I heard somebody say that about a month ago, because I felt like I didn't have the perspective to know what was actually best for me. In other words, I bought into the idea of the power of attraction, right? And I bought into the idea that we are writers of our own story, writing our own lives. But then I thought, when you are sitting there manifesting, like I've heard, you can do, like, every time I've gone to see Esther Hicks, who channels Abraham, it seems like the questions most people have are, how do I get more money, and how do I find a life partner? And I thought, what if you don't? What if you're okay with those things? Or, what if that's not your motivating factor? What else is there? And, so I was sitting down one day to manifest, and I'd been doing it for a while, and some things were coming, and it was nice and everything. But then I thought, what do I know? I'm here in a limited perceptive space here on Earth, and I don't know what I need, really, truly in my life to make it better. So why don't I just relax in the fact that my life is happening the way is happening for
Surrender.
me, not to me, surrender, and just instead of manifesting, do something else. Thank my guides for helping me with my quote unquote beautiful life, and then move on from there and allow it to happen. So anyway, that said, here Bashar has a 5-step formula to, better reality, better life. So I'm just going to zip through these real quick. Number 1, act on your greatest excitement and passion in the moment. Excitement, passion, move towards those things that you love doing, even if they sound silly, or if they quote unquote can't make money, or if you've already got a job, but this is your hobby. Move towards those things because there's something in it for you. There's something that's stirring you these are the things to move towards. So number 2, do this to the best of your ability. Don't quit after one time and feel like it failed. Keep doing it as long as it makes you excited. Take it as far as you can and go until you cannot take it any further. So do the thing. If you're let's say musician, you follow that all the way to the point of you get bored with it. Then move on to the next thing. Step 3, act on your excitement and passion with absolutely no insistence, judgment, or expectation on what the outcomes should be. This is very important, and I talk to people have asked me like, what's the formula for a healing miracle? And one of the formulas is no expectations, because every miracle I've ever seen in my life caught the recipient off guard. They never, you can't plan a miracle because you're planning and you're thinking about what should happen automatically makes it smaller or it blocks it. So step number 4 is choose to remain in a positive state regardless of what happens. So that's the biggest challenge right there. So when the thing's not coming to you that you want, can you still be up about it, knowing that it's going to be something bigger and better than what you're expecting? And then finally, step number 5, constantly investigate your belief system. Release and replace the unpreferred beliefs, fear-based beliefs, and the beliefs not in alignment with who you prefer to be. All right. So I've been working on my own 5-step process that incorporates that, some Esther Hicks, some Wayne Dyer, and some channeled information from the guides. So this is what I do every morning. I thank the guides, guardian angels, and helper entities for assisting me in my beautiful life. I ask for continued assistance from my higher self, for my higher and greater good. And I keep it simple and general. So basically, I want to have great health. I would like to have abundance in all its forms, not just financial, but with people and relationships and things like that. And I would like, help with my passions in my life. That's it. That's it. So you can meditate on your greatest excitements, no matter how silly and impractical they may seem, and then explore what it feels like. Now, here's where the manifestation part happens. Explore what it feels like to have these things. So if there's something you want that is not in your life now, visualize and imagine you have it already, and then explore the emotions that you're feeling. What does that feel like? You have $1 million. Is that what you want? Okay. Imagine you're in a room with a big pile of $1 million. How do you feel right now? And then, I make this point all the time. A lot of people say, oh, that would make me happy. No, that doesn't make you happy. Honestly, it makes you relieved. It makes you feel like I don't have to worry about money now. And that's a different feeling than happiness, because even people with a lot of money will say that money doesn't always make you happy in the way that you expect. So then after you do that, you hold that for 17 seconds, by the way. You hold that emotion of already having it for 17 seconds. As Esther Hicks says, it has to come to you. It's the law, unless one thing happens. You have put any expectations on it. So that's step number 3. Release your expectations, your judgments, no scorekeeping. A friend of mine told me the other day, it's like planting a seed and then digging it up every day to see if it's growing. That's how you can ruin this. So don't do that. Let it grow. A lot of the germination happens underground. You can't see it. So just have faith that it's working. So the farmers, they have faith that the seeds are working, or they're growing. do that. That's such a good analogy of setting your intentions.
That's great.
But then the final thing is this kind of completes the circle. Take actual physical actions towards making some of these things happen, moving towards your greatest excitement, and then focusing on that excitement, whether it's working or not. Just keep doing it, and guaranteed it will come to you in a way that you hadn't expected. So can you accept it when it comes to you in a way that you hadn't expected? Usually it's bigger and better. And then finally, notice your manifestations and how they came in ways you didn't expect, and give gratitude, and continue to follow your excitement until it wanes, and then move on to the next. So this is how we build a life where, upsetting things will happen to us less, or they'll happen in a way that we can handle in a little better way. This is to me what the future looks like. And I just want to say these guys too say the same thing. So up above, it's David Clements. You can go to his, he's got some fantastic meditations, infinitesourcecreations.com. And then on the bottom, that's Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. And you can go to his website, bashar.org.
Wonderful. All right. Very good. Well, upcoming events for me. Okay, this slide didn't get updated, so we'll just let that one be. So visit my website at wendyrosewilliams.com and you will see information there.
Oh, no.
No worries. Keep going, Greg.
Okay. Well, as I said earlier, I've got 2 books out. The Gratitude Curve, which is my experience with Lyme disease, and then Your Love Will Make the Difference, which is a lot of information from getting from since that. I released it in October of last year. It's information very much like what I was just talking about. Things for the future, how to make your life better, et cetera, et cetera. You can go to Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, that's bn.com, or my website, gregkirk.com.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. And please join us again on April 13th for the next episode. Our guest will be Yvonne Cason. Dr. Cason had some powerful NDE experiences and learnings, and she is the co-founder of Spiritual Awakenings organization. So look forward to having her as our guest. Visit us at wakingupspiritually.com, and you can find all our broadcasts and PowerPoints there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Waking Up Spiritually. And we so appreciate you rating and reviewing us on Apple iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Visit Greg, and you can work with him via his website, greggkirk.com. And mine is wendyrosewilliams.com. And let's get working together and get you feeling wonderful. So thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you very much.